Hello, welcome to the first episode of our new show, The Vetting Process. I'm here with a member of the Leominster School Committee, Brandon Robbins. Brandon, how are you today?
Good job.
So, my first question here is just tell us a bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So, sorry about that. In my day, I am the manager of Ginny's Helping Hands. Ginny's is a small nonprofit in Leominster, and we are mainly a food pantry. So that's mainly what we do. In addition to that, I have the honor of serving as an at-large member on the Leominster School Committee and being a voice for all of our students.
Awesome. So, my first real question here is, so what initially got you into the world of politics, really?
Yeah, of course. I love telling this story. So back in high school, I had the opportunity at Leominster High to watch a mayoral debate in the city of Leominster happen. It was, not something that happens often in Leominster. So I got to see this happen. And one of the candidates really inspired me. So I talked to her after and was very impressed with, her energy and her, a lot of her stances and her outlook for Leominster. So I asked her if I could work with her campaign in any way, and I got involved with her mayoral race. And ever since then, I've just been fascinated by the world of politics. So I ended up getting my bachelor's in political science. Your mom, actually, when she stepped down from the Leominster School Committee, convinced me to run for her open seat, and that's what I did.
Yeah, and the rest is history. And so speaking of your work on the school committee,
That's right.
Yeah. Speaking of your work on the school committee, I imagine the pandemic that we're in has had a little bit of an effect on that. What do you have to say about that, about how the pandemic has affected your work?
Yeah, that's definitely true. Being a student of the Leominster Public Schools, Josh, I assume you've kind of felt it a little bit too. Back in March when the pandemic really hit Massachusetts, the Leominster Public School system basically had to turn on a dime. We were, fully enthralled in the, normal, what we considered the normal day-to-day operations, kids going to school every day, doing their stuff at school, going home at the end of the day. And then around March 13th, that all changed, and Leominster Public Schools, had to, as well as schools across the Commonwealth, had to make a decision. And the decision was we needed to worry about the safety of our students, our teachers, our staff. And because of that, we had to shut down the schools. So we moved to that virtual platform. It was a difficult transition. I don't think anybody was ready for it. This was something we've never seen before. We, had to make sure kids had the technology they needed to be able to do their work. A laptop, a Chromebook, some way to access the internet, but as well, internet connection so that they could actually do the work. So it's definitely made things interesting. I hope that, not only will every kid have a Chromebook so that they're able to get their schoolwork done, not only every kid will have the internet they need to be able to access the work they need that needs to be done, but as well that we've learned a lot from, the past couple of months, getting to the end of the school year, and hopefully we'll learn from the mistakes we made along the way.
Absolutely. So the next question here. So what as a school committee member do you see yourself like doing? Like what does a school committee do basically?
I think that's a really good question because I don't think a lot of people know what the school committee does. And in my role, I kind of see my role as multifaceted. So obviously we form a budget for what we think that the need to function properly, vote on that budget, present it to the mayor. In addition to that, we make policy. for the school committee as well as for our schools. And on top of that, I see myself in my role as a voice for students, teachers, staff members, and just general taxpayers in the city. And to me, this is, one of the most critical roles. I want my to be somebody that anybody who has an opinion can come and talk to, tell me how they feel about whatever issue it may be, and then I can bring that back to the school committee with me. I think that's the most, one of the most important parts of the role that I have.
Absolutely. And a large part of the school committee that that I very much had to experience when my mom was on the school committee was all the budgeting issues. There's always something. So especially with all that's been going on, where do you stand on where the Leominster education budget is right now?
Yeah, of course. So, like I said, one of our most crucial roles is presenting that budget to the mayor. And that's what we did. We as a school committee took a unanimous vote on a budget that we thought we needed to go into the fiscal year 2021. Obviously, COVID-19 threw a wrench into that, right? So the state saw a significant impact on revenues they were taking in. Still, we don't know what kind of money we'll be getting from the state for our Chapter 70 funding. But I think that, in Leominster, we need to be making education a priority. And I'm not sure that up until this point that we've done that. I think that our students deserve better, and that we need to continue to offer them more and more opportunities. When I ran for school committee, my whole thing was things should be getting better since I've graduated. We should be offering more opportunities, more programs, more clubs for our kids to get involved to. And unfortunately, that requires money. So we need to make sure the funding is there for these opportunities to happen for our children.
Absolutely. And so the speaking of what we offer to the students of Leominster, how, if at all, as a school committee member, have you prioritized the arts, music, arts, stuff like that?
Yeah, back in middle school, when I was in middle school, I played the trumpet, and I'm somebody who very much values the arts. Never would I say that I was a pro at playing the trumpet or anything like that, but it helped me experience a different side of school, and I truly understood from that experience that the arts, music, that whole sort of all those different programs are things that some kids really connect with, and that's why they go to school every single day. It gets them up out of bed and really, really gets them involved with school. So, being a school committee member, the arts, music are incredibly important to me, and making sure that those opportunities are there for students is incredible.
Yeah, thank you for that. And so another thing that I remember, a huge thing being when I was a student, mainly in elementary school, was all the talk of standardized testing and what that means and how the schools go about using that as a sort of priority to their education. Do you have any thoughts on that at all?
We do. Standardized testing, in Massachusetts, mostly we're talking about MCAS here, right? Obviously is a big state issue that needs to be, dealt with at the state level. But in my opinion, I personally would like to see the state put a moratorium on the MCAS specifically. I think that, I was one of these students myself that didn't perform very well on standardized tests. I stressed about them, and because of that, the work that I was impacted. So I would most better value student. Like, we do evaluate.
Is this all right? And sort of talking about that a little bit and your work on school committee. Is there any it's just an overall question. Is there any what's like the greatest challenge you face and like the most rewarding part of facing those challenges?
The biggest challenge I face. So I think the biggest challenge I face as a new school committee member, this is my first 7 months on the school committee, is just kind of learning the processes, right? I think there's a lot that as a member of the community you see, just through the normal functionings of the meetings and that kind of stuff. But once you step into the role, there's a lot that you just learn as you go. So that's definitely the most challenging part, I would say, for me thus far. But with that being said, I think the most rewarding part of the whole job as a whole is knowing that I'm trying to make an impact on our education system for the better, because I do believe that education is such a critical part of a child's development and child's life, our students' life, and investing in that helps them to become better members of our community down the line. And anything we can do to build stronger community members is critically important.
Absolutely. And so with that all being said, like the up and coming school year it's very uncertain what's going to be happening. Ideally, as a school committee member, what does the ideal, like in this current situation, the ideal school year look like to you?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Josh. I think everybody would like to go back to school, right? I think we would all like to have every kid back in their seat, back to the way it was before COVID-19 happened. But like you said, there's a lot of uncertainty, and I'm not sure that situation is possible. So the Leominster public school systems are going to take the guidance or follow the guidance that the commissioner has set out for making a couple, 3 different plans, and kind of, working with parents to figure out where they feel they're at, working with students to figure out where they feel they're at, to make sure that not only does everybody feel safe in their seats, but that teachers are safe, that staff are safe, so that, so that when we are as a community ready to go back, we can all take that step together.
Absolutely, yeah. And something that you mentioned near the beginning of all of this was that you work, like near the beginning of this interview, is that you work with Ginny's. You work for Ginny's. Do you think that work, that work has influenced what you do as a school committee member in any way?
And it really reminds me and keeps me grounded in the varying degrees of community members that we have in Leominster and the different needs that people in our community have. And because of that, I think even ideas what our and to me it's an important and helpful thing to have.
Absolutely, yeah. And I guess the last real question I have here is, so you're very young for an elected official. After once the school committee is over, do you have any plans for higher office, maybe state level or federal level or anything like that?
Honestly, I don't know. At this time, I very much enjoy being on the school committee right now, and I plan to stay here for a little bit. I think that I can make a difference and an impact on our school system, and I want to make sure that I help our kids as much as I can in this role. And to do that, I need to be in this seat.
True. And so next up, what I have is a sort of a lightning round. I'm going to give you, it appears, 8 broad overall topics, and in roughly like 2 sentences or less, give like your thoughts on that topic. Topic number 1, climate change.
It's one of the most fundamental issues facing our nation right now, and I think it needs to be a priority that, you know, every decision we make has to have, you know, be thinking about climate change.
Absolutely. Topic number 2, immigration.
What was the topic? I'm sorry.
Immigration.
As a you know, who are living in such terrible situations, and you know, would be such crucial contributing members to our country, and we need to take a look at our immigration policy in this country.
Absolutely. The current surge in the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah, definitely. This is such an important topic to me. I'm a huge supporter of the movement. You know, I think that we need to really take a look at criminal justice reform, not only in the Commonwealth, but in the country as a whole.
Sort of on that topic of like reform and stuff like that, police reform, how we reform the policing system.
Yeah, like I said, this is definitely something we need to take a look at. I think that through my work at Ginny's, I've learned a lot that what we need to do instead of sending a police officer to every situation is we need to accompany that or with a social worker, you know, who is trained to deal with various types of situations, whether it be substance abuse, domestic violence, people who are really trained to deal with these situations and who are able to get these people in such terrible situations the help that they need.
Healthcare, like universal healthcare, Medicare for all, stuff like that.
Some action taken on this in as a whole. This, in addition to, you know, all of my work, I'm an MPA student at the University of Massachusetts Lowell, and I'm taking a budgeting course right now and work across the world that have been able to implement strong universal healthcare programs in various different forms, and I'd like to see us move towards that.
All right, I think this might be the hardest question we have asked so far. Which is the best flavor of ice cream?
Most certainly is the most difficult question of all, because I don't know if you know this or not, Josh, but I'm a big fan of ice cream in general. So pinning down a flavor is difficult. But I tend to lean towards the fruit flavor, so I would go with like a strawberry cheesecake.
That's a choice. And I think that's about all the questions.
Thank you.
I think that's about all the questions I had for you. Thank you for coming on and talking a little bit.
Thanks for having me, Josh. I really appreciate getting to be your first guest.
Yeah. So this has been the vetting process. I hope everyone enjoyed. Once again, Brandon, thank you for coming on.
Thanks again for having me.
And that'll be all.